The title and thumbnail are more than likely something ridiculously clickbaity regarding Jake or the Mystic SMP, or both, but to be honest, that's not really what this video is. Gotta play the YouTube game, you know? It's not a cancellation or a call-out post or anything like that. I've heard that a few other ex-members of Mystic are planning on making their own videos regarding their experience with the server, and more specifically Jake, so I figured I'd make my own to get my side of the story out there. Over the summer, I was looking to get into Minecraft SMP content. I stumbled across the Script SMP, a server that seemed right up my alley. I slapped together an admittedly lackluster application and tossed it into their Discord server. It didn't go anywhere, so I planned on looking for other servers to join the next week. I woke up the next morning to a DM from some dude called JakeJxke. He said he liked my script application and wanted me to do an interview to join his server, the Mystic SMP. I hadn't heard of the guy before, and he seemed friendly enough, so I accepted. I sat in the interview channel for a little while before he eventually joined. He asked me a few quick questions, mostly around how I could promote the server, and just like that, I was in. And it was great. Everyone was super welcoming, and it felt like I'd finally found a place where I could make the content I wanted to. I want to take this moment to mention that I don't hold any ill will towards anyone on Mystic, if that server still even exists by the time I post this. We all just got roped into Jake's weird little operation, and my problem is with him specifically. Because even after the first couple days of hanging around the Discord, cracks were already beginning to form. You see, Mystic was being advertised as a scripted SMP with a supposedly epic story that anyone could take part in if they just got accepted into the server. That could not be further from the truth. Mystic, at that time, had no story whatsoever. I had tried making small talk with a few other members, asking if they had a character in mind for the server, but the majority of them told me they either didn't know or didn't have anything beyond a couple personality traits. I spent my first week or so on there trying to make the best impression possible. I release a whole bunch of music I've made for all the members to use for free. I start animating a whole backstory for my character and sharing updates on its progress in the server. I make sure I'm always there to give positive feedback on everyone else's work. I help Jake record voice lines for promos and just generally try and be as friendly and helpful as possible. The server, in the meantime, is still a mess. We're getting close to starting it, and there's still no plot. Even still, Jake's yelling about an incredible storyline in all of his promos and watching the applications roll in. Even now, I'm still not entirely sure how Mystic's application system worked, to be honest. There, to my knowledge, weren't any guidelines posted, and Jake's review system was inconsistent at best. Sometimes he'd do it by himself, other times he'd ping everyone at some crazy hour at night to do it as a group. He'd stream the process in Discord, where he'd typically watch someone's application for the first few seconds, get bored, and then start skipping through it. Oh, yeah, and if you submitted an SMP video, he wouldn't even watch it. He also pinged us one night to work on the script together, which I thought was going to be a fun evening, until he got distracted almost immediately and spent most of the night gambling. That kind of procrastination existed until the very last week before the start of the server. Jake posted the supposedly awesome story he'd been working on for us to see, and it was pretty bad. The gist of it was that he was going to sort everyone into a good team and a bad team, and they were going to fight for some reason. I'm not oversimplifying to make fun of it, it legitimately did not go anywhere beyond that. This is, not what he was advertising to people. We were promised gourmet steak and instead got served a McRib. I kind of thought he was just joking when he posted it initially, given how much he talked up the server. Between the dramatic promos and how he claimed Mystic was going to really take off, his favorite thing to do seemed to be to hype up the server as much as possible. He loved telling us that this was going to be the next lifesteal. Come to think of it, that probably should have been a major red flag. The server starts with nothing more than a bare-bones plot that nobody's going to stick to, and a couple of characters that are really just loosely defined clumps of personality traits. Unsurprisingly, that story-rich idea gets forgotten pretty quickly, as not even Jake is sticking to his own plot. Mystic devolves into a generic fighting SMP on day one. Jake begins getting mad at low player activity and announces that he's scrapping the team's idea with nothing to replace it. Mystic, a scripted and story-rich SMP, was left drifting with no plot for several days. At that point, I'd come to terms with the fact that this isn't what we were told it was going to be, and decided I was going to take matters into my own hands. If Jake refuses to make this the server he promised everyone, then I'm going to make it the server he promised them. I contact him and explain that I have a plan to save the server. He agrees to give me a couple of days to make a video explaining everything, and I get to work. I won't bore you with the details, especially since I'm going to be releasing a revised version of that video on my channel pretty soon, but the idea was to renew Mystic's focus on characters and make the server center around them instead of a pre-written plot. We could write a plot for the characters instead of the characters having to bend to serve the needs of the plot. Jake actually liked the idea and made an announcement to the rest of Mystic that he was going to be using my idea. Given the feedback I got from everyone still interested in trying to tell a story on the server, they all liked it. Jake told me he liked my idea and wanted to use it, but that was about it. He basically kind of checked out of Mystic at that point. He wouldn't help me teach anyone how to make their characters, so all of that falls on me. He drags me out of random voice calls when I'm working with people because he wants to talk about something random. He doesn't post anything beyond some loose guidelines, a link to my video, and some generic, "This is going to be the next lifesteal, guys." While I'm trying to help him make his own character, he's barely paying attention. He forgets things we just talked about, keeps getting distracted with random stuff, and I have to do basically everything for him. For everyone else, all I really had to do was just point them in the right direction, maybe help them rephrase a thing or two, but Jake was giving me nothing. On top of that, I'm now talking to a lot more of the members. Every single person who has a history with Jake has had nothing nice to say about him. I won't be naming anyone specific for obvious reasons, but the more I learned, the less safe I felt around this guy. He's stolen countless assets from people, he's got a habit of scamming pretty much anyone he can, and he's apparently doxed somebody before. I'd heard a few people discussing leaving Mystic, and someone even reached out to me offering to start up a new server using my character designing method. And to be honest, I was considering it. Eventually, I told Jake I was leaving. He tried talking me out of it, but my mind was made up. I clearly explained that I do not believe him to be a competent server owner nor a good person, and asked him to not contact me again. He completely ignored everything I said and tried messaging me anyways. When I block him, he sends a message to one of my friends and asks them to pass it on to me. Fast forward a week or two, and Flux, Deadlocks, and I are opening up applications to the Arc SMP, a server we founded on my character design principles that Jake is now accusing us of copying. He thinks that we copied my idea. I don't really know what he's getting at there. He doesn't own the idea, and he definitely doesn't own the idea of scripted SMP content either, so it's not like he has any ground to stand on. Naturally, the three of us hop on a call and proceed to laugh the hardest we have all week at this guy's sheer intellect. Things get even better when he then asks to join the server and is furious when Deadlocks tells him no. It's enough to get me to break my silence against him to send one admittedly snarky but still very funny message about him accusing me of copying myself. He responds, deciding that we now have beef. We proceed to argue all afternoon as he proves over and over again that he wasn't listening to a word I said when I explained why I was leaving Mystic. Jake attempts to convince me that there's drama between us. There is none, I simply wish to distance myself from him, and I'm trying to figure out why he's even arguing with me in the first place. He eventually ghosts me, another habit of his apparently. Now, I was planning on leaving it here, just as a showcase of how frustrating and potentially dangerous this weirdo is, but I have a small conspiracy theory brewing. You see, Mystic is not the first SMP Jake has started, far from it actually. To my knowledge, there were at least 2 before this, and I'm starting to pick up on a pattern here. Around 10 months ago, Jake made an application to the Infuse SMP, a server with a plugin centered around players' status effects. After being denied, he starts up the Potions SMP. I'm not sure what happened with the Chronos SMP, another thing he started, or what its non-bootleg equivalent would have been, but fast forward a few months to when he first invited me to Mystic. It was because he saw my script application, and the only server we had in common at the time was the Script SMP's Discord. He even admitted to me on call at one point that he had made Mystic out of spite after he was denied from Script. I didn't record a random call I had with him because I'm not some kind of creep, but I don't see how hard it is to believe. You know what the best part is? After being denied from joining the Arc SMP, he's announced that he will now be rebranding Mystic with some new application requirements, an announcement that he made only after joining the Arc Discord for around half an hour before leaving. I won't accuse Jake of trying to rip us off because that's difficult to prove, but that sure is a little strange. What I'm seeing here is that Jake will try to join a server, and when they don't want him, he makes a knockoff of that server. He ropes in a ton of people without telling them that he only plans to keep it alive for just long enough to squeeze a video out and then move on to his next target. He leaves the server to rot, and everyone else is left to clean up the mess. If Jake's watching this, which I think he probably will be given how he strikes me as the kind of guy to look up his own name, I meant what I said earlier. I'm not making this video to start drama or because I think he needs to be taken down or something childish like that. I don't want beef, I just want him to stop messaging me, stop trying to weasel his way into my server, and hopefully to stop running these strange scams. Jake knows better than anyone how much I put into Mystic and how hard I tried to save the server. Doing all of that just to find out the guy running everything is a scammer who doesn't see you or anyone else as anything but a means of getting free content? That sucks, man. That's why I made this video, both to get this off my chest and because I don't want to see anyone else fall into this trap. If Jake starts up a new server or contacts you to join his, run the other way. You are going to lose a lot of time, energy, possibly money, and maybe even your personal information. Any drama he tries to pull out of this is purely in his own head. I don't hate the guy, I just don't want to be associated with him, his work, or his servers ever again. I'd want him to stop messaging me and my friends, and I'd want him to just leave us alone, really. Oh, and just to cover all my bases before we finish this thing, no, this isn't promotional material for ARK. I only brought it up because it's relevant, and you won't find a single link back to it anywhere on this video. Also, I know this is all basically just anecdotal evidence. I didn't screenshot every message and record every call because A, that would be weird and creepy, and B, I didn't exactly think I'd need to at the time. I think that's everything. I don't think there's much of a moral to draw from this, and trying to create one just feels disingenuous. Don't work with this guy. He will screw you over the moment it's convenient for him.